Hi, Phil. Hi, Angel.
Hello. It's good to be here with everyone.
It's good to have you here. We're just waiting for just a couple more, and then we'll get started. Hey, Paige. Okay, well, I think we'll get started. We've got a brisk agenda that we've got to get through. First of all, I'd like to begin by welcoming Kelly Payjack. Kelly is going to be speaking with us today as part of our commitment to continuing education. Kelly is the director of For Culture Public Art in Seattle and has over 20 years experience working on high profile, large scale, permanent and temporary art projects throughout the United States. And as part of her work at For Culture, Kelly collaborates with a 9-person public art advisory committee and 5-person public art team to cultivate art experiences with partners throughout King County, such as facilities, metro, natural resources and parks, public defense and wastewater treatment. She's also responsible for the county's yearly 1% arts plan. So welcome, Kelly, and we're looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us with regard to public art programs.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Can you all hear me, hopefully?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I was having some Zoom issues earlier. So I have a pretty, maybe like about a 17-minute presentation that I'll show you. And then I'm hoping we have a tiny bit of time at the end for conversation. So I just, for the sake of video and all things streaming, I'm just going to turn my camera off for now. And I will show you the presentation. So just give me a second and you can let me all know that you can see this. And are you all able to see that first For Culture slide?
Yes.
Uniting. Okay, great. All right. Well, I'm just going to launch right in and thank you. I just really want to thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your discussion tonight. And you gave a really great overview of For Culture and I think public art. So I'll just do like a quick snapshot at that. I am Kelly Payjack and I am the director for public art at For Culture. And tonight, I hope I'm going to show you just kind of a quick overview of what we do, but also some ways to, in consideration of your public art in your city, and then also some potential inspiration. I'm not sure if you all know, but For Culture, we're called a cultural development authority. And what that means is that we work on behalf of King County and our partners, as well as the cities that we serve to provide resources in the 4 program areas you see here. We've been doing that for over 25 years. I think we're getting closer to 30 actually. And I just want to give you a quick snapshot of our 4 program areas, because I think this will be of interest to all of you. And if you have artists and organizations in your community that work in these areas. So arts is the department that works with individual artists, but also groups. And they provide grant funding for not only projects, but equipment, operations, and capital building projects throughout King County. Then we have our partners in heritage, and that arm of what we do supports our local heritage museums and facilities, and also offers special project support for the documentation and interpretation of King County's history. And then our partners in historic preservation basically will work with local organizations, public agencies, and also individuals to find creative solutions to protect and rehabilitate historic sites throughout King County. So I think the primary difference between these three program areas, or one fundamental difference, I should say, in public art, is that these three program areas, as I mentioned, provide grants funding. So those are usually always advertised on forculture.org, as well if you're part of our email list, which you can also sign up for at forculture.org. You will always, we share a list of monthly opportunities that show what grants are available for individuals and organizations in these program areas. So now to jump into public art, which again, I am part of, we commission contemporary public art for shared space throughout King County. And ultimately our goal is to ensure that the work and thinking of artists is included in buildings. It can be infrastructure, but also public space. And these are always owned by King County, so our King County divisions and partners. I did want to show you a quick look at our gallery, which is unfortunately closed due to COVID, but this also has a long history, over 25 years of being in existence. We are located, when open, in Pioneer Square in downtown Seattle, but this is a really great opportunity for artists in King County to have an opportunity to exhibit their work. We only ask that artists be from King County and that they also are not represented by a gallery already. There is a process to select the artists that exhibit there. There's usually 10 exhibits a year, and that's a yearly process. Unfortunately, we are on hold because of COVID, and we will be continuing the last cycle of artists that we selected last year. And then this will pick up, and hopefully in the next year, at least that process. So I just wanted to go on just really quickly and talk about the value of public art. Certainly you all see value in doing public art, and I applaud that. I think it's great. We are really lucky in our region that there is so much public art as an amenity, but there's a lot to this that I think often are talking points, or when people ask, why are we doing public art? I think these are values that you can reference. So as we know, and I think this might be one of the larger principles, but public art can really reflect a community, and I think also gives identity to who we are, to our public spaces, and how we can utilize them, and that happens in a variety of ways. I am going to show you some examples of public art coming up, so that'll kind of touch on this point. Public art also builds civic pride and community connections. And I think this point speaks to this time that we are in, when we're with COVID. I think, what our community is and who we are connected to is maybe a little closer and tight-knit than it had been prior to COVID. So I think this is a really interesting point in one, how public art, maybe in the process that an artist can bring, really looks to community to source ideas, but I think also to reflect who we are and who is part of our community, what our history is, maybe who are, make connections in the community that we haven't had before. And then the last point I wanted to touch on, and just to represent this is not necessarily inclusive. Public art does much more than this, but I think these are some real high notes. Public art can be a real economic driver. It brings visitors based on, what is happening. We've heard this term cultural tourism. So the range of how people explore to see art, to experience culture, and then how they spend their dollars when they do that. Are they visiting, a local coffee shop? Are they staying overnight or nearby? All of those things are, connected to public art and cultural tourism. And I just wanted to close that thought with this image, and many of you might be familiar with this work in its completed state. This is from quite some time ago, but this is at SeaTac Airport, and I think, you know, harkens to a time we miss, kind of pre-COVID, of traveling. But the work that you see above is by Cappy Thompson, who is an artist in our region. Cappy is a really talented artist, and but this was the first time that she had been able to work at a scale that was this large, or to work, you know, with glass, and, you know, to develop her designs. So the one thing that I think we think about or forget about in public art is, you know, when we have dollars that are associated with a project, and this obviously is tied to a very large scale capital construction project, but the dollars don't only go to the artist to cover their fee to come up with a design, but it goes to a multitude of other sources. You know, it touches on the fabricators that develop it. There can be electrical engineers. If there's lighting, you know, you see here the installers that put this work in. The artist wasn't able to do this herself. So that helps to feed, especially if those fabricators and resources are in a local economy, it helps to support the economy. So again, I think these are all good touch points, especially during these you know, difficult fiscal times, to, you know, remember. And it really does take a village to do a lot of public art that we see. So I think I want to get to the you know, the next point, just really the possibilities. So not really the why of public art, but the what. You know, what can you do? And I thought the best way to kind of explore this was to just show you some examples of projects we've taken on at For Culture that touch on a variety of ways that we can work in the public art field. So just moving forward, many civic collections have portable work. And this is a really wonderful way to, I think, express you know, who artists are in our region, the way they're working. This is also another opportunity to bring artists to the public art table that maybe have never done public artwork before, but, you know, they're working in a studio, they're creating work that's, you know, beautiful and valued. So these works are usually framed. They live in, you know, civic public space. Sometimes they can be like the piece on the right, Akio Tokamori's Love. It could be somewhat sculptural, so it might have a case to it. But this really benefits those that work in a city, as well as the public that we serve, to, you know, have art as part of our daily lives. This is something that I think we're probably all much more familiar with, the idea of permanent public art and how that might live in a space, or in this instance, this is the Factoria Recycling and Transfer Station, somewhat new, completed in 2017. This was a new solid waste transfer station for that area of King County. And in this instance, this what you see is there's obviously a large berm landscape as part of this site. This is the entry as the public comes to use the facility. And had the artists not worked here, this would have been a really kind of vacant entry. This is really the first thing you see as you go to use the facility. The artist was really interested in harnessing the idea of recycled materials. So he did that by thinking of bicycle wheels and using those in the space and obviously polishing them up. But this greets you, and this artist, Al Price, is from Arizona, and his work thinks a lot about the way that light shifts over time. So really, as you experience this at different times of the year, a variety of times of day, it really does change. And I can't tell you, we've gotten such a positive response from people who use this transfer station, and, you know, how they you know, feel like this is a welcoming entry to do a much needed necessity as part of their you know, getting rid of, you know, trash and waste. Also, public art can be integrated, or I would even say sometimes functional. I'm sure a number of us have seen public art, you know, the idea of artist designed bicycle racks. Occasionally, if you travel through cities, you'll see those. In this particular instance, this is a new ferry terminal, and by new, this opened in 2019. It's Coleman Dock in downtown Seattle. This is for use with our partners at King County Water Taxi. So it's a transportation hub from West Seattle, but also utilizes the Kitsap Peninsula. I think they have a high-speed ferry that comes here. But Leo was really referencing the history of this site. Much of Seattle's waterfront was previously tidal flats and wasn't land in the way that it's used now. So Leo basically wanted to create pilings, and there was a need for a stanchion system throughout this terminal. And it's, as you can see, very long, and one of the prominent features of this space were these stanchions. And the previous plans were to use kind of the type that you see like in airports, kind of black metal with, elastic tape. And it just was such a prominent part of the space. So we were able to have Leo create the stanchions for the space. So these are all hand stained. The redwood were material that was like cast off, so he was able to reuse that. It didn't go into the waste stream. And then the ropes are hand tied nautical ropes, and they create the kind of queuing lines for the space. So this is really beautiful if you ever get a chance to see it. And it's one that our county partners really love. Another way that artists work is thinking about, you might hear about community initiated projects, or there's a desire to change something within a community. So in this particular instance, the community in Bothell, the tunnel that you see here that's certainly transformed. Prior to this was just basically concrete. It leaked. It was pretty dismal. It was 250 feet. And a lot of, basically the community was, found this really a poor space to have to travel through. So they wanted to transform it. We, working with our partners at King County Parks, thought about the way, again, to center an artist, the artist's voice as part of this. And really the important thing that is part of this project is thinking about a way that an artist could utilize their talents, but also the community really wanted to participate in this project. So think about, a community that might not have an art background, or maybe doesn't have experience painting, and coming up with a design that everybody could participate in and be successful doing. So this was a great way to complete a pretty sizable project that the community was able to be even further a stakeholder in. So if you're ever on the Berkman Trail, I highly suggest going through this site. Another thing, and I know this was a question that was posed before I was speaking to you tonight, but the idea of like leveraging your public art dollars. And I think this is a good point to that, the idea of partnerships. Sometimes we have limited public art dollars. So how can you make those go further? In this instance, we at For Culture, this was just about this time last year, as we were, I would say, more in March, but as things were shutting down, we really realized that artists were hurting. They were realizing a lot of their opportunities were going away. And we wanted to find a way to kind of hire and bring King County's artist talent to the forefront, but also be able to address COVID and a number of the concerns that we had around it. People were scared at that time. There was a lot of polarization, I think still is. And so we found that there's an organization in Seattle called Amplifier Foundation. And interestingly, while they're based in Seattle, most of the work that they do is national and international, and it's basically rooted in social change. They were already, they were just about to release a global call to artists to address work that would be positive and have positive health messaging during the pandemic. So this was like a win-win for us. We were able to highlight artists from King County, which we did through a call. Seattle. And they were able to work in their backyard and learn about artists that they hadn't worked with before. And then these artists were able to get, a high bit of visibility. These images live on our website and you can download them if you like any of them. There's actually 10 artists that were selected. This is just a selection, but this is a really simple way to do art. They're posters. We have them hanging in our offices now, so they greet people on a transit corridor in downtown Seattle to kind of help during this time. So I think this is a really great project that goes for pretty far with not a lot of public art dollars. And then two other examples I'm going to show you. This might be something you decide to do in the future. This is maybe a lesser known practice, but talking about social practice and how artists can affect social change, or I think highlight larger social issues. The thing that you want to take away from this is it kind of forces us to think a little differently about what art can be and what the product of art can be. So in the instance of social practice, the real value comes from the experience of working with an artist, the education that comes from what an artist can show you, or how you can be directly involved in the system of what art is. So this may have a less lasting effect, but I will say the instances where people experience these often have a lasting effect. So here you see Vaughn, you don't see Von Bell, but the work she created on the right, which is actually, it's an environmentally safe bar of glycerin soap. And what's on the inside is a ceramic disc. You see some words. This is part of a larger poem by Janet Norman Knox. And the poem that Janet created has, as I recall, 10 stanzas. So each one of these ceramic discs has a stanza from the poem, and that's what you get to permanently keep from this. The poem is about water, and basically to get this original artwork, we have a center called Brightwater that exists in Woodinville. They have an education center, and there is a larger collection of art there. Vaughn had these soaps, and in exchange for, you see on the left, a map of our King County system and where Brightwater, the areas that Brightwater treats water for, you had to mark where you lived and where this soap would be contributing to the system. And then in exchange for that, you got a bar of soap. So this really connected a larger community. And interestingly, I can't tell you the number of people over the years that I've heard that remember this, like how this is stuck with them, like the lesson they learned about how vast the system is in King County and important our water treatment is. And then lastly, I just wanted to show this example about an artist plan. You might not be at this point yet, but at some point in the future, you might find that you have longer term projects or maybe larger, big construction happening. And this a good way to think about kind of a unifying plan that will move with you for many years. You could do this for the city too, is to think about bringing an artist in to explore a plan for a range of how artists and maybe even creative projects could move through your community. So this is kind of a nice tool that maybe will guide you over time. So as I wrap up, and then we can open up to questions, I just wanted to talk a little bit about best practices. And there are certainly so many that I think we could take on, but I really wanted to just highlight some that I think are really important. As artists are commissioned, I think it's really important that you make sure that the process you have for selecting an artist, but also working with your stakeholders, is fair, it's inclusive, it's consistent, make those really conversation based. And, to the second point, be transparent about what this process is. It's so frequently, people ask and think that artists are handpicked by entities. And when you talk with them more and they experience a public art process, they realize that it probably couldn't be further from the truth. So, there's a larger conversation that happens around these projects. And that is really important. And I think getting people involved in that. Also, certainly we know that public art projects can be controversial. Nobody goes into projects hoping that that is the case, but sometimes it happens. So I think, again, this is about transparency and, you know, just thinking about stakeholders and, you know, getting people involved in a common, you know, the common goal and common conversation around art and what the project expectations are. And then, you know, really think about what your community, what you can do that's extraordinary. How can you create experiences that, you know, I think enliven where we live and our kind of day-to-day experiences. And then lastly, I would just say we do this work with artists. So, you know, make sure that how we're working is thoughtful, and that artists are, you know, paid fairly for their work. Artists are, you know, equally as talented as, you know, any other talent that we bring on. So just making sure, never ask an artist to do work for free. I think that's a really crucial point. So with that, you've been patient. That is what I wanted to show you in my presentation. And I would love to open it up to questions if you have any. And I do know that when we spoke before this meeting, I think there were a whole host of other questions that, you know, I think we could explore at a follow-up. It was just, you know, we had a kind of limited amount of time together tonight.
Does anyone have any questions for Kelly?
Well, Kelly, this is Susan. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. It's lovely to see you.
Good to see you too.
I was just wondering, since the Lakewood Arts Commission is very new and we're building our way here, I loved your best practices. I thought that those were wonderful. But in your vast experience of working with public art, what piece of advice would you give us, or what is the greatest lesson that you have learned over the years of your experience in public art that you would be willing to share with us?
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question, and I probably have many.
Yes.
You'll probably get what comes to my mind first, but I would say don't underestimate what artists can do and what they're capable of. I think, and I also think to that point, be open about what the opportunity is that you're bringing an artist in. Because I think sometimes when projects are so tightly scoped, it might not offer an opportunity for an artist to be maybe as inventive as they can be. And, you know, I think to that, realize that we're kind of walking this process together. So when you bring an artist on board, you know, I think to be transparent about, you know, sharing of information. So you all can work together and have a dialogue, and, you know, you're really coming to a common goal. You know, they want to achieve their best work. You're certainly excited to have their work in your community. So I think, you know, everybody's coming to this with the best intentions. And so that was kind of a couple points peppered in one, but that's what comes to mind now.
Well, thank you, Kelly. I think that behoves us all to be willing to be open-minded and take a little risk with the process now and then. So, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for your time today, Kelly. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I will say before I go, if any of you should have any questions after the presentation, or you might have a dialogue that comes to be because of what was presented, I'm happy to follow up, or just even, you know, have a phone conversation around issues, and especially as you move forward. But just thank you for continuing public art in your community, and thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Well, Sally is indisposed at this time. She's hoping to be able to join us just as soon as she possibly can, but we'll forge on ahead for right now. Moving back up the agenda to the approval of the January minutes, anticipating that you've all had the opportunity to review the minutes. Does anyone have any corrections or any additions to the minutes?
Linda, I do have a correction.
If
It
you
was
would,
pretty
Dave.
obvious. We just had a presentation by Kelly under continuing education. That should probably be changed to for culture.
We
Right
do
under-
have four, we do have, you mean in the minutes?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, yeah, sure. In the
For
minutes
the-
also, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I suppose that's it. Yeah, that's more in the agenda rather than in the minutes, actually. So
Well, yeah, because I didn't see that in the, I didn't see that in the
In the
minutes,
agenda.
but I do have for culture in the agenda though. Right there.
that should read for culture.
Oh, color. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can just make that correction to
Sure, we could.
the,
Yeah, it's just spelt wrong, that's all.
That's just a
it's
simple
just
thing.
a misspell.
Sure.
Okay, is there anything with regard to the minutes themselves, please? Okay, so could I get a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I'll motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Aye. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. No nays? Okay, motion passes. Moving on, we are still hoping very much to be able to welcome Sylvie Johnson as a member of the Arts Commission. However, her membership is still pending. So we're hoping, Sylvie, that that'll be something that's rectified shortly. But in the spirit of being accurate, I think it's important to note that we're still in pending status with regard to your membership. Unfinished business. In our last meeting, we talked about how we would change our work plan so that it reflected two subcommittees that would be responsible for work in the public art sort of sector and the performing art sector. And all of you perhaps were not present for that meeting, but I thought it important to go over who's going to be part of those committees at this time. And that is public art is going to be Earl Borgert, Daryl Owens, Jason Whalen, Lonnie Neal, Patty Bell, Susan Warner, and that includes the Colonial Plaza art, the utility box wraps, and some special events and rotating art. And the Performing Arts Committee is myself, Lonnie, Neil Lewitt Pritchard, Paige Hansen, Adriana Beyer, Phil Rashke, and Patty Bell as well. I think it's important to note that if you're on one particular committee but would like to be on another as well, there's no restriction there. You can be on both. But I do think it's important to note that if you're not on the Public Art Committee, you can't be part of the decision-making process with regard to the Colonial Art Project. Just by way of some brief information there, on February 8th, Sally is going to be meeting with the City Council to review the plan for the public art at the Colonial Plaza. And what I mean by the plan going forward, essentially it's going to be a call to artists. There is $90,000 established for this project. The artists at this point are going to be vetted from a state list, okay? And the hope is to get maybe 6 who will respond, and then whittle that list down to a total of 3 who will make a presentation to those who are part of the Public Art Committee to make a decision as to who to move forward to the City Council for decision making. And then let me see here. We can then move forward now, I think, to some committee reports. So Earl, you guys have done a lot of work recently with regard to the utility box wraps. Could you give us an update as to where you're at with regard to that project?
Well, one thing, sure. One thing I was kind of hoping to hear back I was hoping to hear either back from Sally today or she was going to be
Oh, we're
present.
having trouble hearing you, or at least I am. I don't know about anyone else.
Here, let me. I have my
Yeah, I can't
speaker
hear.
on. Can you hear me? Are you there? Can you guys hear me?
Well, it's hard to hear you, Earl.
Okay.
Oh, that's better. That's
That's
better.
Okay. I don't know why that was. Anyway, can you still hear me? Good. I don't know. So anyway, I was saying that I was hoping that either Sally would be here or she would let me know. But one thing that we haven't been able to establish is which utility boxes are going to be eligible, for these wraps. Are they going to be? Is it going to be all the utility boxes on that map? Is it going to be WashDOT? Are WashDOT utility boxes excluded? Are the WashDOT Lakewood boxes excluded? And we're only focusing on Lakewood maintained utility boxes themselves. That's kind of like a big question. I mean, there was a city representative that had thrown in a suggestion of maybe doing a utility wrap, a traffic signal wrap around one of the signal boxes at Springbrook. And per the map, that's not a Lakewood maintained utility box. So we kind of have to drill down to figure out which boxes are first of all, which boxes are ours that are going to be eligible to make this happen, and then in what communities. Initially, we had proposed to maybe do a couple of utility boxes around the Lakewood Town Center to kind of keep them centrally located for a little bit more of a visual impact. So community members could actually, notice that the city is putting in a lot of effort to kind of help beautify the community. Instead of doing one signal box here and then one signal box far away. But then it came to our attention that the Lakewood Town Center already kind of has enough color, and so maybe we should focus on other communities that need a little bit more sprucing up. And so we've kind of suggested, Lonnie and I have suggested a couple of different places and locales. First of all, I think Lonnie had suggested Gravely Lake Drive in Mount Tacoma, right there, where multi-care is. And then that Drab corner across the street from multi-care, where that car mechanic place was torn down, and it's just an empty lot now. And then I kind of was driving through town one day, and I thought maybe it would be kind of interesting to do Bridgeport and 112th in Bridgeport and 108. Especially Bridgeport and 108, because right behind the signal box right there is that empty lot where that old Shell gas station was, where there's nothing but a fence and weeds. And to me, that would be a prime candidate for a project like this, because it was a huge high traffic corner, and it would just offer a lot more color to that area than what's been there for I don't even know how many decades. So that's kind of where we are at right now. And from what my discussion with Sally is, I think that in the budget, we're only going to have enough to do right now 2 signal box wraps, because I think they're going to, isn't that correct, Lonnie? They're probably going to be around like 3,000 or something like that. We only have a budget of 6,000.
Yeah. I think, yeah, we know we can do 2, and we may just sort of stack a third one in there with hopes.
Yeah.
But it's looking like 2.
Sally's gonna put this call to artists, which she had just emailed everybody right before the meeting. And she emailed a draft of the call to artists, and I think she's gonna put that on Tacoma's listserv. And we're gonna make it open to all Pierce County residents to kind of throw their hat in the ring. And then we're going to start whittling away down those artists and see which ones we fit the criteria the best for what Lakewood's going for. And I think that's about covers it right now. Lonnie, do you think there's anything I'm missing?
No, I think you've got it, Earl. I mean, in our subcommittee meeting, we just pinned down some of the details of what's in the call to artists. So as the committee, we're going to be able to, if we get 6 designs that we really like, we can keep those kind of in the queue. And then there's some discussion about where other funding is going to come from. So Sally was going to look into the possibility, can we have certain boxes be sponsored, with a small, appropriate scaled, donation logo on there, but it's not, so we may be able to come up with more funding. And then the discussion of location, there's a lot of players, I think, that have different opinions on it. So it's trying to get these first 2 boxes, in areas that we think are blighted and need some public art pickup, but then also high traffic, since we only have a couple of them. Trying to put them in high traffic, high visibility areas. So I think that's so I think the call to artists can certainly go out, and the selection process can start. And then behind the scenes is figuring out which are the 2 boxes that we're going to kick it off with.
Mm-hmm. But we've already established the criteria of what the artists are going to have to meet. Because we've been able to, we've been able to access a lot of information from communities like Olympia, Puyallup, Tacoma, to figure out what kind of sizes we're going to need, what kind of, what the quality of what the resolution has to be for the images, how the images are going to have to look once they're laid out from a 2D image to a 3D image. And so Sally's done a great job in putting that whole call to artists together. And she did have a great idea of doing the sponsorship, and she's going to look into that, because we weren't sure if there's going to be any legal hurdles with that. Because mainly, what if one of these artists has their art trademarked, and what if that trademark conflicts with the sponsor? Right? So that we just felt that would be something that we needed to know before we actually pursued that as an avenue for fundraising.
It sounds to me that, when you get these 2 wraps done, it'll be easier going forward.
Yes.
It's like, this is kind of like getting your feet wet, learning everything that needs to be done. And then once you've kind of mastered that, it'll be easier to do the 3rd one, the 4th one, and so on and so forth, I think. But for right now, it's a lot of learning and, just figuring out what y'all can pull together in terms of possible sponsorships as well. Yes, Paige?
I was under the impression we were doing a lot more than 2. Did I miss why we're not doing more than 2?
I don't think there's enough money in the budget for it.
Oh, I was under the impression we had money to do like 9 or 10.
No, I think because we only have a budget of $6,000, and I think once we started kind of, working all the numbers, and what the wrap was going to be, and then we're going to give a stipend of $700 to each, to each artist, and then you have to hire the people that are actually going to print it. I think once taxes and everything is done, you're probably going to only be averaging about 2 at this point.
That's too bad, man. It's a big city, but
I guess we might be able to squeeze
somewhere that would be I'm just,
You know, we might be able to squeeze 3 out of it, but I highly doubt 3 is going to be able to be. I think we're going to be right on the cusp of 2.
But as you said, Lonnie, that's a great idea that you had, you know, that if we get several, then we're ahead of the curve when it comes time to moving forward with the 3rd one, the 4th one, and so on, because y'all will have identified artists whose work you want to move forward with. I mean, I agree with you, Paige. It's a shame. I think we were hopeful that our price range would be such that for these things that we would be able to do maybe 3, you know, 2,000 a piece. But I wasn't thinking about the stipend for the artists either. And as we just learned from Kelly, you got to pay the artist.
Exactly.
You can't.
We felt that $500 would be just too low, and we wouldn't be able to afford 1,000, so we kind of met at the middle in 700. So
Yeah. Well, thank you, Earl. Does anyone else have anything either for Earl or Lonnie?
and in closing, if I could say one more thing, if anybody's driving around town and they see a perfect candidate for a utility box that just kind of irks them, you know, in an area that maybe it's like it has a lot of graffiti, or it's just an area that, please feel free to just email us and let us know what your idea is for that area, and then we will take it under consideration.
Say Earl.
Yeah, Jason?
Daryl.
Oh.
I actually like that idea of 108th and Bridgeport. That's a high traffic area. It's one of the main entries into the town center. And that was my old neighborhood growing up, and it desperately needs an influx. There at one time there was a restaurant right there on that corner that you spoke of. So I think that would be a very, very good candidate. That would actually send a very positive message to that community, that particular community.
Hey, Jason?
Thank you. Thanks, Earl, for the report. I wasn't able to attend that last subcommittee meeting, but maybe between Linda, you and I, we can chat with Sally and just confirm the budget availability, because it seems to me if we can squeeze out 3 and maybe a 4th one, or even possibly go to some business sponsors to help us get over the hurdle, I think the economy of scale would, you can get more bang for your buck visually if we can at least get 3 or 4 of these things in the community, if we can. I think 2 is kind of lost, but we'll do what we can do. But I can see if I can squeeze some more money out of the budget somewhere. But let's check and see what Mary's thought is on that, because I thought we had 6 to 10 grand this year.
We did have 6,000 that I'm aware of, Jason.
Okay. Well, we'll just make a note. Maybe I can always circle the wagons with Mary and see if we can find some money somewhere. But
well, that would be great.
Yeah.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? Okay.
Exactly.
So the Performing Arts Subcommittee doesn't have anything at this point in time to discuss. We've tabled the film festival until June to begin discussions. And as we've discussed previously, the summer concert series is already well in hand, provided we're able to move forward with that event. With regard to the 25th anniversary art contest and mural, what I can tell you is that the deadline for submissions was moved to February the 15th. Regrettably, we've only had approximately 20 entries thus far. And in the last 2 weeks, there has been somewhere between, I don't know, slim and none, according to Sally, as to what's come in. So any encouragement that you can provide to artists out there, it would be most appreciated. But at this juncture, its participation is looking a little dismal. With regard to the mural itself, it's still early days yet, but apparently there is some thought about creating a movable mural. Okay. LMCC has donated $2,500 towards this initiative. and Pierce College has promised a further $500. Clover Park Technical College and of course the city, that's still, the jury's still out on what contributions towards this project what it might look like. But that's where we're at with regard to that at this point. And I think Sally had some further information on that to share this evening, but that's as much as I can share with you at this time.
Hey, Linda, I have a question.
Yes.
It's Sylvie. On the artist, are you just looking for local artists, or can they be out of state?
Well, that's a very good question. I can't say for certain, but I think it's fair to say that probably the interest is in having local artists contribute. But I won't say no, Sylvie, because I don't know unequivocally what the answer is with regard to that. Okay?
Yeah, Linda, I was going to say, I thought we said it was going to be local artists unless it's changed. And my question was, I just wondered if we had, I know there was some discussion about the Tacoma Arts Listserv, because that reaches many Pierce County artists, at least. Did we post it there?
That's a good question, Susan.
Because I don't think I've seen it, because I'm on the arts list. So.
Yeah, well, that would probably be a good indicator that it hasn't been posted there. I'll be honest with you, I don't know where that notification has gone out to, or who it's gone out to.
Right.
But I do know that, my goodness, if we've only got 20 entries, it's about time we started thinking about how we're going to expand our reach.
Is it local, just Pierce County?
I think I can't remember what the outcome of that discussion was, Sylvie, but I do recall us saying we had a preference for local artists, but I don't know what the final ruling was. I don't remember. I know we talked about Pierce County, and I don't remember if we talked about Washington State as a whole.
Okay.
See, I'm there with you, Susan. I don't know that there was any absolutes one way or another, but I do know that there was a preference.
Yes, there's strong preference.
And that was definitely for local artists. But it is disappointing to only have 20 submissions thus far. And obviously, it's a conversation that should probably have with Sally. So hopefully, I'll have the opportunity to do that this week. Like I said, she is caught up with something that is rather significant this evening. So hopefully I'll be able to get in touch with her tomorrow about that.
And it's a very generalized promotion, the one that I just looked at on Facebook and forwarded again. It doesn't specify what kind of art.
No.
All ages. I mean, I just know that when you're that vague, sometimes people just go, I don't know what they want. And they don't want to take the time to email, because it just says email Sally. So, one suggestion is that maybe we should have made it more like, suggestible, like we're looking for visual art, specifically this kind of stuff, whatever. I mean, me as an artist, you probably thought, well, would something like what I do apply? And you know. So I guess we should, what do we want to see? Mostly visual, I would expect visual art.
Yes, visual art.
Yes.
So paintings, drawings.
Yes.
Specifically
regarding the 25th anniversary of the city of Lakewood.
Yeah, I think that thematically it should kind of, I think the intent was that it in some way play to the 25th anniversary itself. The community, unity. I'll be honest with you, it is vague. It's vague. It's certainly open to interpretation.
And you know how that is. Just sometimes you're just like, I don't want to take the trouble to figure this out. Next, because it just says call to arts, first grade through adults.
Yeah.
And then monetary prizes for all age categories, deadline, questions. And that seems really vague. So.
Right, but right underneath that, it does say read all the contest details, and it has the website link.
Nikki, if you're speaking, we really can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah,
the website, City of Lakewood link. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, there's a link. I can share it. Hang on just one second.
It is on that little social promotion. 25th anniversary. /25th anniversary art.
One thing that came up in the box wraps discussion, we had a similar discussion about how big is the audience and what we're trying to, who we're trying to capture. And that got pinned down to Pierce County. Yeah, so, and we had, there was some discussion, is it just Lakewood proper? Is it Lakewood School District? And all different cities do different things. So, maybe we need to resend this one out and do the listservs that are in Pierce County.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like following the same format may work.
There's a lot of artists in Pierce County, and growingly so. So I think using the listservs would be a good way to reach more people, more qualified people.
Yeah, it does say here that you have to work. And could you go back up, Nikki, a second? What was it? Work in Lakewood? So conceivably, you could live outside of Lakewood. You could live in Bonnie Lake, for instance, and work in Lakewood and submit, or greater Pierce County, what have you. But I think, yeah, the emphasis is having some connectivity to Lakewood as opposed to someplace else.
That may be part of the issue.
I don't disagree. And I think the only thing you can do is, is ask yourself, well, is the result that I'm getting a function of how narrow my parameters are? And do I need to revisit my parameters in the hopes that maybe I'll get more people who are willing to participate? So I certainly, would encourage ideas as to what we might do differently at this point.
Well,
and I could share them with Sally.
Yeah, I do think we have to look at the arts listservs. I think that's imperative. I mean, because they go to so many artists and are shared from there. And yeah.
Can you could you email that information, Susan?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Because it would be good to be able to point to that as a source.
Yeah.
I mean, again, should we end up going down that road, it would be good to be able to say, oh, okay, well, this is a place we can go. Anybody else have any other ideas?
Right. And there's certain influencers in the arts community. If we get the influencers to push this out, that might help as well.
I was just realizing I can forward this to like the Lakewood community groups. That's probably the place to go too, because it's every. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think to do that. Sorry.
Lakewood Gardens will send it out to our constituents as well.
Great. Well, great.
15
That's
days.
good.
How about making a dynamic flyer for your Facebook page? Call for artists.
Yeah, when you do look at the website, it does explain. So I apologize. It was much more detailed on the website.
If you do a like an event or a dynamic art poster that says call for artists, and then just refer them to your website for details, you'll get some hits that way too, and tag some art communities.
Just doing it right now. I'm getting all the community Lakewood stuff.
Okay. I'm not sure how we would go about that, Sylvie, to be honest with you.
Your communications manager could make a flyer.
Yeah, Bryn, I think that's Bryn.
She's not with
We're
you guys
actually in
anymore.
between
As an
communications
interim
manager right now.
person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think that the person that's interim
Sally,
knows
you're
how to
muted.
do that.
We have Cameron who's on staff who's good with flyers.
Okay.
She said dynamic flyer though. I don't know. Is that different?
So Sally,
Yeah.
I'm not sure when you joined, but the conversation was about the lack of solid participation on the art contest for the 25th.
Oh, I see.
And we were trying to think about ways in which we could boost participation. And Paige is going to be doing a push, right?
I just shared it like 5 different places. So hopefully.
Thank you.
And then Susan is
I
going to
didn't
be
see.
doing
Yeah.
a Lakewold push with regard to the contest as well. And the thought was is that maybe there could be some work with influencers within the community to be able to get them some information about the event itself, and then also to do some kind of flyer that goes on to the website. Sylvie had mentioned this.
Okay, great.
And also, Linda, I might suggest having the district push this out again to students, especially since elementary is making their way back into the classroom. Might be a great opportunity for teachers to work with their students, because now students will have access to materials to be able to do some of this artwork.
That's a great point, Adriana.
So-
That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe connecting with the Clover Park School District, and not sure who else would be that we could connect with there.
And they have been pushing it out, just so you know, but they could do another push.
Yeah.
And you could also, I mean, this is Tacoma again, so it depends on, what the actual qualifications was, but the School of the Arts would be another great choice.
Yeah, it's for Lakewood residents.
I thought we were just doing it, but there was some discussion about whether, because we thought it was Pierce County, we didn't remember whether it was just Lakewood.
Oh, well, that's for the signal boxes.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. Sally, I don't know if you have anything that you would like to share in particular at this point. I did go over some of the information from February 8th, February 15th, what's upcoming and the like. And we enjoyed a very good presentation from Kelly Payjack. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just if there's any questions that came up that I can answer for people, like on the public art recommendation or anything.
Hey, Sally, I had a question. Did you ever find out whether or not all the signal boxes were going to be eligible, or just the Lakewood maintained ones?
Yeah, only City of Lakewood signal boxes are eligible.
Okay.
Okay.
So you obviously heard I haven't put the call to artists out. Did everyone get a chance to read that call to artists that I emailed out?
Yes, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, it's quite detailed.
So it sounds like I need to schedule one more meeting, subcommittee meeting, to decide on the signal boxes.
At least for the location and stuff. And then I had told the group that we're probably only going to be able to afford like 2 signal wraps, right, at this time?
Yeah, but we can go ahead and pick maybe 4 boxes so that as money comes, we've got them picked out.
That's a good idea.
And we can, or even we could even pick 8 and just prioritize them 1 through 8.
Okay.
Okay.
But what I need to know is which ones have the service cabinets. The 1 through 8, just indicate which ones have service cabinets and which ones don't.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if if there's nothing else, then for the good of the order, I think we'll bring this meeting to a close. Our next meeting is going to be Monday, March 1st, but be prepared for the call if you are on the Public Art Committee for an upcoming subcommittee meeting to move the utility rep initiative forward. And some of the suggestions that have been made with regard to the participation for the 25th anniversary, well, we'll see what we can do about getting more people interested in that. And thank you, Paige, and thank you, Susan, for sending out more information regarding that to your contacts. And for anyone else, if you have the ability to influence that participation rate, Adriana will certainly get back with the schools. Let's all do what we can.
And if I could pipe in one more time, I just also wanted to say that I was at Wahop Lake, walking around it, and I just love the new pavilion. The cover over there is so nice, and look forward to the idea of doing some busking over there, getting some artists to come. And I just think it would be lovely. The park is beautiful. You know, the less we have to do, the more I'm at that park, riding my bike, walking. Don't even have a dog, and I just enjoy the heck out of that park. I enjoy the heck out of the dog park. Just, you know, if we could,
is fun.
and I know we're looking forward to getting music back, but you know, a lot of us feel pretty safe outside. So some singing in the park. Can't wait to do it. I know everyone's worried because when you open your mouth and you breathe, it's scary. But let's put a good thought in that people far away will be just loving hearing that. And many of us artists have like battery operated amplifiers. So we could even be, you know, far away and singing, and someone could just hear it just echo over the lake, you know, wouldn't that be lovely? So definitely, I know the performing artists are excited to do it, and just kind of waiting on cities and municipalities to give the go ahead. So
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Better days ahead, Paige. Looking forward to it too. Well, thank you, everyone, and have a very good evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you on Monday, March 1st. Good
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye now.
Everyone, good job.